Okay, that's better.
Oh, now you can hear?
Yeah.
Woo! Let me make sure all my settings are correct. They are. All right. All right. Um, Man, I took a mental health day today and then took an accidental nap. So that's what I'm coming from.
Well, welcome back. Um,
Thank you.
I'm I'm actually really glad I had this extra day after the girls were down for the weekend because I just have not felt physically very good since like Sunday morning. Um, 30 minutes is really creeping up on me. I yeah, so that's
Yeah.
fun.
I'm just like hella tired and ready for my Christmas vacation, which by the way, we're gonna be in Austin, so I'll send you the dates so we can like sort out our hang sesh. But for our patio ladies corner, I got my new Many Moons 2023 lunar planner.
Ooh, I've been seeing those come in on Instagram.
How beautiful.
I know a lot of our Instagram people also get the Mini Moons lunar planner. So
Yeah, I'm super excited. Um but I'm interested to like dig into like the Chariot as the tarot card of the year for 2023, which you know, we'll see. I don't know. I feel like the energy is feeling so weird right now. And then we also have like that Gemini full moon in 2 days. I don't know. Shit's feeling fucky.
it is a little fucky. I mean, um, Gemini and Sag, that's some pretty chaotic energy.
Yeah, both of our midheavens too, which I love. I mean, I know you've got that big Sag placement, but I it still warms the cockles of my cold dead heart that our midheavens are sister signs.
I do love that. Sister, sister.
Never knew how much I missed her. Did I tell you I saw one of the Maury twins at the Grove for Santa pictures a couple of years ago?
You did. And
That was
that's still incredible.
what a weird like LA celebrity sighting that's like not really a celebrity, but still a celebrity.
No, they were talking about the Grove on Poog the other day, and I was like, I've been there. I do like the Grove.
The Grove is
It's
fun.
so fancy for a mall.
It's just a mall though. That's the thing. I guess it's like because I know that they film like I guess they film Dancing with the Stars there and they do like other fancy primetime television shit there. So when my in-laws came, they're like, "Oh, we want to go to the Grove." And we're like, "The mall?"
The
Like,
mall?
I mean, sure, you have those in Texas too, though. You know that, right? Also, so I did my hair and it's from this brand called Lunar Tides, and you can't see because it's dark right now, but it's a black pink. And so in the sunlight, it looks like you get like hints of pink in it.
Ooh, love that.
Yeah. I don't know. I was like digging the auburn, but I was like, I just want darker. I just want darker, like my soul. So yeah, that's what I did this weekend. But the brand is really cool. It's called Lunar Tides, and this is from their like magic line. So this color is called Magic Charm. And in the like tub of the dye, there's like mica powder. So it was like glittery when I put it in my
Ooh.
hair. So I mean, obviously mica doesn't like stay in your hair, but it still made the like coloring process fun. Sorry, my mic just tried to like fall over.
None of that.
None of that. Anyway, so yeah, I'm excited though to like this episode I think will be fun. I
Yeah, yeah,
hope.
yeah. I no, I have some real hard-hitting topics.
Some real heavy hitters. I definitely went through and had to like brush up on a little bit of my like Irish pronunciation because like the name Araved is spelled Airmid and pronounced Araved.
That's how I would spell it.
Irish. What a language. I do want to learn it, although I'm like gonna have to learn Spanish first. Also, I'm gonna be in New York for a weekend in January, so we'll have to talk about that.
Interesting.
I'm going to
Okay.
a conference, but my hotel is like right around this corner from like Rockefeller Center, and the cheapest hotels were like the ones with 2 beds. So if you make it up to New York, there's a bed you can sleep in.
Ooh, okay, okay. No, that's not happening.
It's
What
gonna be
did I
fucking
tell
cold.
did I tell you that the prices okay, so they passed like $1 trillion package in Japan because they're reopened now to subsidize the airfare. And what that means is that the round trip airfare is like $900 to $1,100
Wow.
for like a full price ticket. It's not like the $400 thing. It's like the government's paying for part of it. So
Well, I'm gonna go see Funny Girl in January. And like that's
um,
what I'm doing. No, that's dope. That is really cool. I'm excited for you because
I mean,
it, it you
just to
lost
have
out. You lost
just
out.
just to have that open up as an option
Yeah. I know,
is
because you were
is
so
incredible
excited.
because we could still do the original Athens trip, but it's like if we're on Google like ready to pull the trigger and it's like they're a similar price, I mean, I'm fully like, yeah, let's go to Japan instead.
I mean, I'm super stoked on like a much smaller basis. On our road trip back to Texas for the holidays, we're staying at the Hotel Paisano in Marfa, and allegedly it's like a haunted hotel. And I'm so excited because I've never seen the Marfa lights either. So we're like specifically staying in Marfa for a night so we can go see the lights and stay in a haunted hotel.
Well, that does sound really fun.
Yeah.
I know some people who know some people in Marfa, you know.
Okay. Well, if you know some people who know some people who want to like say hi, let me
Yeah.
know. I guess we should do this though, because it's like another nighttime recording.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hello, and welcome to Wands and Fronds, the weekly podcast where we cover magic, herbalism, and more. I'm Nick,
And I'm Shannon.
and we are your co-hosts. And today, I'm back at it again with a little more kitchen magic. So this, I believe, is the second time we've officially covered kitchen magic. I'm thinking, maybe make it a yearly thing, State of the Kitchen 2022. How does that sound? How does that
Hey,
strike you?
look, I feel like we talk about kitchen stuff so much that it really only makes sense that we would have like an annual, like official conversation about it. And I'm like excited to talk about my magic this week because my hands smell very strongly of garlic and turmeric and ginger, which we'll get into. But today, I'm talking about a super popular herb in herbalism, and it really, I think, can only be described as a heavy hitter plantain. But I'm also going to do like an official introduction to Jiang Kek, who is the physician of the Tuatadanan. And I swear to God, someone had talked to us about covering him at some point, and I can't find who it was. So if you are the person who at one point suggested this, here you go. I'm so sorry. I couldn't find where it was though, but I swear to God, I had talked to somebody about this and I was like, oh, we're totally doing it. And now I can't give them credit. So I'm sorry. I love whoever you are.
Love that. But before we get into all of that, I'm gonna go ahead and ask, when did you feel the magic this week?
It was today. So I took a mental health day because this is like the first holiday season since my sister died. So I am like sad. And guys, being a grown-up is about taking care of yourself and your mental health. So, what I did today was I made up a big batch of fire cider and I felt so fucking magical. I was just like chopping chilies and horseradish and like turmeric and ginger and like it feels so much like alchemy to make it and then like just shaking it all up and getting ready and like storing it away. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to like ruin Eric's night by giving them a shot of it because it'll drain everything from your sinuses. So it was just nice to like get into the kitchen, and be making brews, kind of like getting in there with all my herbs. I added some like elderberries and nettles to it, which aren't like traditional, but like I think they make good sense for it. So that was really, I mean, that felt really special. And then I've also been like just sort of getting into my new, like the Many Moons Lunar Planner by Sarah Faith Gottesdiener came out, which I kind of talked about in our Patio Ladies segment earlier for Patreon. But, that's been fun. But really, it was like the most magical I felt was like in the kitchen. Like my hands are going to smell like garlic and horseradish and ginger for 800 years now. And you can't see it in the lighting, but my fingers are totally yellow.
Oh,
So
from the turmeric.
yeah. So
Love
that was
that.
it. Fire cider is like so good for you, but something about it does feel like just so much like you're making a potion.
No, and I love and now tell me, this is the one where you're doing it in cider vinegar for a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, so it goes in raw apple cider vinegar. So there's like 10 billion recipes, but I kind of like made my own based on the things that I like to work with. So there's a bunch of rosemary, there's a full onion, a whole head of garlic, one metric fuck ton of like fresh chopped ginger, fresh turmeric, fresh horseradish. I put elderberries in it, Fresno chilies, and then nettles, and a couple of like sliced lemons. And then I've got it in like one of my big ass jars. And then you just completely cover it in raw apple cider vinegar and shake it up. Always, by the way, if anyone's listening to this, if you're making things that are in like alcohol or a vinegar base, put a piece of parchment between the top of your mason jar and your lid so you're not like causing weird erosion with the alcohol and the acid. Anyway, so then you just cover it up, put it in the pantry, shake it every day, and it's like 2 to 4 weeks. So normally what I would do is like strain off a little bit after 2 weeks and then just kind of like strain it off as needed so the other stuff can just keep getting like stronger and stronger and stronger. And you can put like a little bit of like raw local honey in it and just take it like a shot. Or I'm going to talk about a soup I want to make, but you can add like a shot of it to soup too. And
Mm.
because it's like fucking spicy. And I don't know about you, but like it's heartburn city for me to take a shot of like super spicy anything these days because I am my esophagus and my gut are 31 and I'm feeling it. So I like to like put it in stuff. So either like dilute it a lot in like a tea or throw it into something you're eating. But that's my general fire cider recipe. Although really like any variation, there's 10 billion recipes for it online.
No, I have definitely heard about this one. I've heard about this one before.
Yeah. But what about you, Nick? When were you feeling the magic?
Well, I will say, not to. This was already going to be it, but it was nice having my sisters in town this weekend. It's nice that we're all like grown up now and we can kind of meet each other on that level. I will say we had the best dinner Friday night, and y'all know I espouse some Dionysian principles. So be it. But literally just having a good meal and a few bottles of wine with like the people that you love. Yeah, like
It's a big deal.
there's vibes that go into it beyond that. No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. I love that. I also love that your sisters were there this weekend because it was my sister's birthday on Saturday. So when I was like seeing your pictures, I was like, oh, it's sister weekend.
Right, right, right.
Because I
Well,
was
no, because
texting
it was
Morgan too. So
it,
it's cute.
but it was just kind of like, it's that kind of dead space between Thanksgiving and Christmas where it's like, especially with our family being as broken up as it is,
Yeah.
we're not at each other's actual holidays. Nor would that ever be the expectation. So it's nice to just kind of make your own holidays. That's what
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that.
Oh, Hundo P. I love it. Well, I think we can like jump into it because it is the holiday season, which means we're all fucking busy. and tired, and it's late. Our Patreon people can see we're recording at night. I'm also in a different direction, so y'all can maybe like see my face a little bit because I always feel I get so pale if I'm just like lit by like just the computer like this. It's
Yeah,
like too much.
you need a little warm lighting. No, I definitely have
Yeah.
my like yellowest light on in my room because same.
Yeah. So I'm excited about this one though, guys, because this is one that I don't work with a lot, but it keeps coming up in stuff that I'm like reading and coming up in like my Herb Crafter tarot deck. So I'm like, fuck, I feel like I need to. So plantain, right? This is a big topic. Okay. I'm gonna do my best to like keep it relatively brief, no promises, but it's like a really great lung health ally, and it's like perfectly eatable, which is why I thought it made sense in the kitchen magic episode, but also because it's that time of year, right? Like everyone is congested. I feel like I start getting congested in like November and will just be that way through early February. I mean, that's my life. But we're talking about Plantago, in particular the species like Lanceolata and Plantago major. So it's the namesake of the Plantaginaceae family, which we have talked about recently because it comes from plantain, but because of the way it's spelled Plantaginaceae, it just makes me think of like plant family, and it always makes me laugh because I'm an idiot child. Um, but it has some fun common names, including Englishman's foot, white man's footsteps, which we'll talk about in a moment, ribwort, waybread, and my personal favorite, snakeweed, which sounds fun.
I would smoke snakeweed.
I feel like if you smoke snakeweed, you have to like be in a hut and like a bad comedy and trip balls.
Well, I also feel like snakeweed it has to be carried in the mouth. Like the snake has to bring it to you. Snake
Ooh,
and like a snake doesn't have hands, right? So they have to carry it in their mouth and kind
and
of
drop it
slither
off and
across
say,
the
"These are
floor.
my gifts."
These are my gifts. And then when you smoke it, you get visited by the devil.
Um, okay, I'm on board. So
I
that's what
would
we're doing when I come to visit you.
yeah.
We're gonna find a snake. So it's most likely native to Eurasia, but it's all over the damn place now. So like when you look at online monographs, they have like the geographic distribution, and it's just noted as, and I quote, worldwide.
No, not Mr. Worldwide like Pitbull.
Oh yeah, plantain. Pitbull ain't got shit on plantain, Mr. Worldwide. So that very curious name, White Man's Footsteps, comes from the fact that like plantain has literally followed along in the footsteps of colonizers. So like as white people showed up, so did plantain. It would like come to the party and then naturalize. But then on a nicer note, it's also a plant that is like super resilient even when downtrodden. So like take that white guy's foot. But it is like that's the thing. It's like the path for it kind of traveling around the world. It follows colonizing, which that's a thing. But what does it look like? Plantain. It's a perennial, and its leaves are in like a basal rosette, usually between like 5 to 7 leaves. They're lance shaped. We're talking Lanceolata is one of the major species, and they have like super distinct fibrous parallel veins. It If you think about the way a peace lily looks, and even with the flowers, it really does have that kind of leaf vibe. The basal rosette is like everything comes up from the middle and kind of like spirals out real prettily. So when you pick the leaves, you'll see a kind of gross looking stretchy white thread as the leaves separate. But not to worry, that's just the mucilage, which is disgusting. That's a disgusting word. Moving on. The flower, it's a spike of hermaphroditic flowers. It gets up to about like 15 inches tall, and then it like has seed capsules that form on it. The flower spike, it's kind of like what you see on peace lilies again, if you're having a hard time visualizing it, but the seeds will get a little bit bigger. So it almost reminds me of like if you've seen like amaranth growing, like fresh amaranth, the way it kind of like grows up and then they'll droop over a little bit. So they're not like flowers as you would traditionally think of them though. And the plantain seeds actually like spread in kind of an interesting way. So like the seed coat has polysaccharides and they absorb moisture, which makes the seeds sticky. So then they like adhere to animals or people and hitch a ride. They like get stuck to you like glue. But I love plantain for another big reason, and that's kind of the badass ecological role that it plays. So it comes up a lot in like disturbed soil areas. And it's cool because it's one of those ways that like nature kind of counteracts people's fuckery. So plantains can like revitalize disturbed, but also compacted soil. So as plantains spread, the fibrous roots break up like hard compressed soils. And they have like a very strong taproot, a la like dandelions. But then they have like another network of roots that kind of like break up like overly compressed soils, but then all of those roots also hold the earth in place and prevent erosion. And it's considered a weed by some folks, but like really they play a very important role, and it's kind of new to think about them that way. But you'll often see them like in nature on like creek beds as well, like thinking about the erosion issue. They do like to be relatively moist, some species. So anyway, it does produce a shit ton of seeds. So you can totally grow your own plantain, even if you don't have a creek. You can just direct sow them in the spring. So the seeds are kind of small. So you're going to want to just like, they call it broadcasting them. You just like broadcast them over wherever you want to plant them, sprinkle soil over the top, keep it moist until they sprout. And then like once they sprout, you kind of like let them go. You know, they don't need a whole lot of babysitting. But one suggestion I saw too is like you can also transplant it. So if you live somewhere where you can find local plantain growing, you can totally like harvest a couple of them like full rooted and transplant them into your garden, which I love that idea because then you also know it's like something that has evolved to be good for your environment, which is super cool. So I do have to say, if you are going to be harvesting them, though, you need to be very cautious to not take them from places where the soil could be contaminated or exposed to pesticides. Remember, certain species really love like rivers and creek beds. So like you have to be really aware of pollution issues because it's not as simple as being like 50 feet away from a road. You know, sometimes there are like certain creeks and rivers that go through like phases throughout the year where they're more or less polluted depending on like water levels, certain like contaminants that might be present. Like you really just, you have to do a little bit of legwork if you're going to be harvesting something like this in nature. So just like be careful. So harvesting is the end game though. How do we go about that? Well, first, the easiest way, you can actually harvest like the young leaves in the spring or early summer, and they go great in salads. And the way that people normally talk about harvesting them is sort of on like an as needed basis, right? So you can use the fresh ones for first aid, but you can harvest and freeze the leaves too to use them later. And of course, like most things, they can be dried out. You're just going to spread them on like a screen or a brown paper, like a piece of brown paper in a warm, dry, shaded area. Turn the leaves daily until they're crisp, and then like toss any that become black or discolored. And the immature flower spikes can be harvested in early to midsummer, and you can saute them. Like you can like take those stalks and just fucking like saute them up in some butter. Mwah, delicious. And then the mature seeds can be harvested in late summer. When you harvest the seeds, you are going to need to dry them before you strip them from the stem. So remember, those seeds are going to get those like moist stickiness on the outside of them. Yeah, that's going to make trying to just strip the seeds from the stem kind of difficult. Let them dry first. Do yourself a favor. And then just strip them from the stem, and then you can store them in an airtight container. So, you know, it's like they're pretty straightforward to harvest, but just make sure you're getting them from a good place. So let's talk about medicinal uses. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. Nick's not a doctor. This podcast is not intended to treat or diagnose anything. Please always talk to your healthcare professionals before starting an herbal regimen. So again, plantain's a heavy hitter. Shakespeare actually talks about plantain in Romeo and Juliet and in Love's Labour's Lost, just like fun facts. And it was one of the 9 holy herbs of the Anglo-Saxons. They called it the mother of worts. Our buddy Dioscorides included it in his De Materia Medica. Culpeper loved on it, and he talked about it being in the command of Venus with an antipathy to Mars, which we'll talk about a little bit with magic. But it's a cooling plant, demulcent and soothing to inflammation, infection, and injuries of the skin, lungs, urinary, and digestive systems. It's also related to psyllium, which is an ingredient in things like Metamucil. It's like got a lot of fiber in it. So you can actually use the seeds of plantain similarly. So ground or whole in water, like you can just mix it into water like you do Metamucil. But you can also use the seeds as a thickener or a binding agent in recipes. Hey, vegans, here's another egg substitute for you for baked goods. Chia seeds are not the end all be all. You can also use them as a substitute for eggs, though, not just if you're vegan, but also to like help your gut, right? So these seeds can help soothe your irritated mucous membranes from things like ulcerative colitis, IBS, heyo Virgos, and constipation. So it's really great for your digestive tract. A Cherokee elder once referred to plantain as the Indian Band-Aid. And it's because it's like a great remedy for things like scrapes, bites, and even insect stings. Wow, that was surprisingly hard to say. It's it can help like soothe and cool the pain though, and it can also even help with things like poison ivy and sunburn. So the most common way people do this, it's just making a spit poultice for direct application. As someone who has a bit of a phobia around spit, basically you can chew on the leaf and then like put it on your wound and wrap it in another leaf. We're going to move on. I can't talk about that too much. You can also, though, just put a leaf in your sock for things like hot spots, blisters, and plantar fasciitis, which I really want to try because, like, my plantar fasciitis on my left foot is a bitch right now. So I'm like, this is on my list of like, again, speaking of like plantain just showing up in something I apparently need to be working with. The anti-inflammatory and astringent properties, though, do make it useful for things like eczema, rosacea, shingles, varicose veins, and hemorrhoids. And it also has antimicrobial properties, which is why in a lot of parts of the world, they actually use plantain for oral health issues. It is also, again, great for your urinary tract. So if you're someone that gets like bladder infections, or even if you have prostate inflammation, plantain can help with that. And I've read some people suggest that if you have a kid that's dealing with bedwetting, plantain could help. I don't know about that. Some people suggested it, so I'm just pointing it out. And finally, because I have to call it at some point because I could literally keep going. This thing's good at everything. Plantain is a badass when it comes to lung health. So it's what we call an antitussive expectorant. So if you have stagnant phlegm, it helps break that up. So you can use it as like a tea or a syrup to help with things like bronchitis, laryngitis, allergic asthma. But you can also use the tea or the tincture to help you quit smoking. So they say that it helps curb your desire to smoke and also like helps clean out your lungs at the same time. So as someone who did quit smoking at one point, which is fucking hard, you get really congested and cough everything up for a while. So, you know, any help you can get is good. But of a similar vibe, it's often used for things like allergies or hay fever because it's like super good for your airways, but also happens to have antihistamine effects. So like, what can't it do? I'm going to end the medicinal segment by pointing out how nutritive it is because I think that's like always something important to remember because it's a great source of like vitamin C, carotenoids, and even vitamin K. And you can eat the leaves, but don't forget, you can saute those young flower stalks or grind the seeds and add them to porridge, mix them with flour for baking, or hell, just like add it to a beverage. So on to the magic. Obvi, we already said it's associated with Venus. Heyo. Cunningham has it associated with the earth element, which fair, but I'm getting like big water vibes from this one too, because there's like so much that's moistening about it. Maybe it is just the mucilage, but it's good for things like healing, protection, strength, and drumroll please, repelling snakes. Hey, snakeweed.
Which you don't want. Which you don't want to do if you want to smoke the snakeweed.
Exactly. You want to attract the snakes. So again, I mentioned that like you can use it in your shoes for things like plantar fasciitis, but magically they do say it's supposed to help remove weariness. So I think this is like a really great plant to work with if you're on your feet a lot. I love the idea. And Nick, I'm thinking about people like you, like you're on your feet constantly at work. Like getting yourself like a pre-work ritual that includes like putting some plantain in your shoes, because it's something that can both like metaphysically but also like physically help your feet, because foot health is like hella important, y'all. It's kind of really important to take care of your feet. You can also use the leaves in magical tea blends, and planting them around your home can serve as protection. But I was talking about all of the like kind of mucilage you get with it, right? And using it as a thickening agent. So personally, my idea, I want to add it to like a soup. Like my idea is to make a hella magical hot and sour soup and sweet and like thicken it with plantain instead of cornstarch and then add fire cider to it. Like magical and delicious.
I actually I did when we're in my segment want to talk a little bit about kind of controversial ingredients that I like, and one of which is gumbo filet, which is sassafras leaf, which is used in gumbo as a thickener specifically because it has a shit ton of mucilage in it.
Well, hey, if you can't get a hold of it, plantain. Plantain could be an alternative.
Plantain in your gumbo.
Of course, carry it in your pocket to repel snakes. But again, I would not make this your primary anti-snake tool. So my sources today: Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, Herbarium, Grow Your Own Herbal Remedies, gardeningknowhow.com, and a deep, deep love for hot and sour soup. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast, but hot and sour soup is probably my favorite soup in the entire world, and I will eat it no matter what the temperature is outside.
That's definitely something that I knew, but incredible. Incredible knowledge nonetheless.
Yes, hot and sour soup, man. Don't sleep on it. If you haven't had hot and sour soup in a while, do it. It's so good.
That actually does sound really good. I was actually thinking about this is going to be my weird segue, but I was thinking about today because it's kind of like my hangover day from having this long weekend with my sisters where we did 2 dinners and a Sunday brunch. So like, I was feeling it today.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like what do I need to eat to make myself not feel bad? And so I just want to say up top here that I'm drinking a Modelo. Hi.
Wow.
Sponsor us, please. And I door dashed my lunch/early dinner in. So I just want everyone to know that this is coming from a place of, I think, humility, where I do not want to be one of these people that's like on Instagram showing my food off, and then people think that like that's like how I eat normally.
Yeah. Because we're witches who work.
Because
we don't have help. We're not fucking Gwyneth Paltrow.
No, not at all. But I do cook a lot. I mean, yeah. I would say I feel like I cook a lot, but then again, I know people who actually are like cooking food every day, and I'm just like, that's psycho to me. I'm just one guy. Sometimes I don't have the time for that.
I feel like I cook almost every day, but some days cooking is like zhuzhing up a Trader Joe's pre-made something like during the week when I'm working. So like no shame on anyone who's not making fucking like from scratch meals every night, because again, you're not a psycho. It's fine.
Right. Well, but we did want to do this segment though, because I feel like, we're kind of between these 2 big holiday meals. I personally am always doing a lot of cooking around the holidays. I like to do it. It does make me feel sort of connected with my ancestors, in what I feel is a special way, especially like that kind of cooking. And like, but I also just want to say, like, cooking a holiday meal, cooking a Thanksgiving dinner, really is like, I mean, if you think about just the amount of sage that goes into that, like you're purified, honey. Like if you're If you're eating all the sides and the turkey, you are purified from the inside out, no doubt.
Yeah, bonus points if you're me and you get to be like, oh, the sage, I just grabbed it from my garden.
Just fresh from the garden. Thank you, Ina Garden, the Barefoot Contessa, for making us all feel awful. But
Store-bought is fine.
store-bought is fine, I guess. No, love her though. And I love her aesthetic. I actually think, and I know you guys watched the menu recently. I do think there's room for aesthetics in food, but not to the extent that people have pushed it.
Yeah, everything doesn't need to be molecular gastronomy. Like
No,
I
no.
don't want to see any fucking like snows on plates for a while. Like I feel like that's been the thing for a minute, is like making snow out of stuff, and I'm like, no. I don't want powdered like seaweed. Like it's weird. I don't know. I like food and I think food can be beautiful, but I don't enjoy when it gets to the point where it feels so intellectual that it's like completely moved away from like being good food.
Right. And I do appreciate that as like a conversation that we all got to have after seeing that movie.
Yeah.
So, all of that to say, it is kind of between the two big holiday meals, and then people do entertaining for New Year's, and it's just like that time of year. You're gonna spend some time inside. You might as well be having dinner parties, etc., etc. But so we decided to give Kitchen Witchery her own segment this week.
Hey,
But
girl.
since this is not really the first time we've done Kitchen Witchery, probably not the last time we're going to talk about Kitchen Witchery, I thought it might be kind of fun to go to some niche places with it, especially since food is always changing and evolving. So there's like never going to be a definitive kitchen witch practice or aesthetic. So my perspective is that cooking is inherently magical in nature and not really something where you're having to like find that, because you get this like sense of grounding. I definitely feel this like ancestral connection and energy. I think it also has to do with the fact that like pretty much everything that I have that my grandma gave me was kitchen stuff, or like stuff that's okay to put in a kitchen, like my cookie jar that's shaped like a little cottage.
Yeah. I have the creepy clown cookie jar. I also have one of our antique like fruit bowls. I get it. Like they're things that get passed down. And I think it speaks so much to the value and the importance of the hearth that like those are things that get passed down.
Right. But I would say, it's like, I think people who cook have a witchy bone in their body. Doesn't necessarily work the other way around. I know a lot of city witches who still are not, ace cooks. And that's fine. Not everyone actually grows up learning how to cook. And that's something that I do think is pretty widespread in America in the year of our Lord 2022.
I mean, I get that that's a thing that happens. It's so far away from like my personal experience. It's really hard for me to imagine, like, because one of my most formative moments is like the first thing I was taught and allowed to make for the family was like cheesy scrambled eggs. And then that was like what I did when I was like 6. I like made the scrambled eggs for breakfast.
And you had your little job, and you worked your way up, and it was like you had to learn it. I think we both come from this background of being the oldest sibling too. Yeah. So there was almost a certain amount of you kind of end up deciding what's for dinner because you're gonna start cooking it. So
yeah.
I mean, and that's fine. I mean, I do not begrudge that aspect of my life because I feel like I came out on top by having like some formative life skills. Okay. And I think kitchen witchery does have this low barrier of entry because it is something that pretty much everyone has to do in some form or another. Everyone needs things to eat. And I would say, this is like the gatekeepiest thing I'm going to say, like this whole segment, is that any able-bodied person should know how to make something at home. Like,
I wouldn't even call that gatekeepy. It's like you should know how to fucking like be a human. You should know how to
Right.
make something.
Like nobody is saying like Michelin star quality, but like y'all should know how to boil water. And it's honestly like a bit crusty to not even be able to like do that, you know. Um but okay, so niche place number one, because I think kitchen witchery, I think oftentimes, and there is almost kind of like a bit of a sexist element to it where it's like it's all about protecting your family and shit. And it's like, okay, but not everyone that's like a witch that also enjoys being in the kitchen is really going for that full like Mima hearth magic cottage core vibe. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about where I think I am really bringing a lot to the table, you know, sort of literally and to turn a phrase, which is Dionysian kitchen magic. Because think about, I mean, food and wine have been interlinked forever. Like pretty much, you know, can't have one without the other. I mean, if you're settled enough to be cooking, you're probably making wine. And that's just the story of civilization. So what I'm basically saying is that yeah, I think it's kitchen witchery when you and your friends are drunk and you bust out the dankaroni.
Oh my God, the dankaroni. One of my favorite like drunk kitchen memories. I definitely was with Igor, but I think you were there too. It was the first night I ever sauteed mushrooms in bacon grease. And
Oh,
like
yeah.
the mushrooms soaked up every bit of the bacon grease, and it blew my fucking mind how good those mushrooms were.
Oh, I no doubt about that. No doubt about that. And leave it to a Russian to give you
Right.
to give you good mushroom cooking tips.
Yeah, so good. I think there is something about like the camaraderie of like making food with your friends because I feel like there is so much focus on like, oh, cooking's romantic, but it's like, but it's also like communal. And
It
we have so
absolutely
many great,
is.
yeah, Dankaroni, making fucking egg drop ramen all the time.
All the time. All the time.
I
But
love
you
that.
but you know all of that food was made with like literal love.
Yeah.
And you
And
okay, but
and no money, and that's the thing. It doesn't take money. It's like
it
we were
doesn't take
fucking
money.
impoverished and we made food together.
We absolutely made food together. But I think that, you know, it's if you're going to be into revelry and you're going to be into, you know, reckless abandon and you're going to be into that kind of excessive aesthetic, which I certainly am. I mean, I love a bit of maximalism with my
Oh yeah.
wine.
I'm a
Um,
maximalist. I also one of mine like I mean I don't drink, but on that note of like very Dionysian kitchen vibes, I've recently started really loving to like smoke a joint while I'm cooking because there
oh
is
yeah.
something that's just like it really like first of all fire in the kitchen, it's right. But I there is something about getting like a little inebriated and kind of like letting that lead you.
Well, and I will say some of the best meals I ever had in my life, cooked by my very own mother, would be because we were not, you know, like a super traditional family. My mom is a little off kilter at times in the past. She has been for sure. And but there would be these times where she would just be like smoking a joint in the kitchen and just all of a sudden there's like a full breakfast.
Yeah.
Like, and because you just start going and then you're like, oh yeah, well I was just gonna fry up a few bacon slices and have a little snack, but now I'm also doing fried potatoes and onions and I'm frying eggs. And well, you know, I guess if I'm gonna fry eggs, I might as well put some toast on and
Whoops, it's a full English.
whoops, it's a full English. No. Um, which you know what? Fuck a full English. I don't want beans for breakfast. Like everything
No, I
else,
mm-mm.
fine. Sausages, eggs, great. Even grilled tomatoes. Grilled,
Tomatoes? Yes.
grilled tomatoes with eggs? Yes.
Oh my God,
Beans?
I
Fuck
love
off.
making I love making a scramble. Eric always jokes about it because I always make like really veggie filled scrambles for breakfast. That's like what I do. And I'll do like tomatoes and peppers and like arugula and shallots and garlic. and then at the end just like throw in a couple of eggs and cheese.
Oh yeah.
Bam. Breakfast.
Yeah. No, and really, what a good breakfast. Because I remember the first time I stayed in LA, you made it was like a leftover zucchini that you had cooked. And you
Oh
made a
yeah.
and you just made a big ass zucchini frittata and then just reached out your window and picked an avocado. That was that was magical. That was magical as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, there is something that's just so special about it. And I think that there's like again, I do think this is the thing, especially in modern times, like as millennials and people that don't have children, is I do want to like, yeah, kind of like reclaim the communal aspect that's like not necessarily familial in the kitchen and not romantic. Like there is something so magical, like speaking about the magic of friendship, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, it's like that love and that transfer of like emotions and the way it like makes memories and like it helps basically serve as a framework for the way that you remember your life. It's like my strongest memories are around good meals.
Oh no, absolutely. And what I will say too is that in a strictly platonic way, of course, you will know so much about someone after you have cooked a meal with them.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It's like you definitely learn a lot about people, like from the way they cook, the way they season, and whether or not they clean as they go. Because I can't stand people that don't. I don't understand it.
I mean, okay, it's like I try to be tidy in the kitchen.
You tidy as you go. You tidy as you go.
Um, but I will say, I have unleashed some madness in the kitchen of a drunken evening.
Okay, well that doesn't count. When we're having our Dionysus moment in the kitchen, like the number of times I woke up like in college and I was just like, what the fuck did we do in that kitchen? Um, but I think it's like there's so much personality about it. Like it's
There's
a really special
there's
thing.
there's also like no reason that when we would be putting like 2 pounds of cheese into pasta that should have worked without like a bechamel or some butter or like anything to kind of like melt it all together.
But bam, put it on a tortilla and you got a dankaroni taco.
you're gonna go ahead and have a dankaroni taco and you're gonna love it.
Being 19.
But okay, I did want to talk about something else that I've been into kind of in the world of like, is it kitchen witchery? Where it's like foraging TikTok. So it's like Black Forager, Appalachian Forager, both making incredible names for themselves in the food community doing this work with foraging. Love them both. What is it? Alexis Nicole, and I think Appalachian Forager is called Whitney. I think they're just the coolest ladies on the internet. And I think it's kitchen witch adjacent to really be thinking about like what's in your local environment that you could be eating.
Yeah, I think it's something that I'm so into, and I think it's like the thing to me that makes it feel so witchy is that it's good for the environment and it's sustainable. And like as witches, we are stewards of the planet in a way that I think is really important, especially in the era of climate change. And so I think number one, it's better for the planet. It's better for you to eat things that are in season where you are. But I think there is something about it that brings you so close to the earth. And like I can't forage a lot where I live, but the closest vibe I get is like when I'm picking stuff from my garden and eating it, it's like that connection you have where it feels like direct to the earth as opposed to like you went to Whole Foods and bought some produce. It's like picking something, like getting to know it, seeing the plant, knowing where it comes from. There's also that opportunity, I think, to kind of like give props to the plant that's giving you the fruit or the vegetable or the herb you're eating, kind of that like little offering exchange moment that feels so magical.
Well, no, and I think the culture around that, like, for all I know, I mean, there's no like religious or political bent to either of those channels. But like for all I know, they're both like good Christian ladies who go to church every Sunday. And you know, that maybe they don't have a witchy bone in their body, but like I don't know, I just don't think you could spend that much time outside like hanging out with trees and bees and shit and not be a little cuckoo lulu witchy kind of vibe.
100%. It's almost like the more time you spend in nature, the more witchy you get because you're like, oh yeah, no, this planet is fucking magical.
Well, and I especially love Appalachian forager because I mean, mushrooms are apparently one of the more forageable things. Because literally mushrooms break down everything that dies in a natural environment. Basically, I mean, some kind of
Yep.
fungus is going to do it,
But you gotta be real careful.
but you got to be real careful. But I think it's good to like educate people because really it's like there really is so much just free food out there.
Yeah, and it's like capitalism wants to trick us into thinking there's not enough, but
Right, right,
there's
right.
enough.
I do think, you know, it's like with mushrooms, yeah, there's so many like deadly lookalikes, and just stuff that's gonna make you sick, sick, sick. But really, I personally like believe that there's a little bit of a conspiracy around foraging and like it it's made out to be a lot more dangerous than it actually seems to be.
I think it's mostly just mushrooms that are pretty dangerous. I think other stuff is like a lot safer. I think it
Well,
depends on where you're at.
it kind of gets into the sassafras thing, going back to Black Forager too, where it's like sassafras, you know, they like definitely discouraged people from using sassafras for a long time because it was found to have this carcinogen in like the roots and like the inner bark. But actually, nutmeg has like 5 times as much of the same carcinogen in it. And it's just like there is misinformation out there. And it's like also if you look at the study where they did on rats, they were like injecting them with high doses of essential oil, which had
Oh, yeah.
huge concentrations of this known carcinogen compared to like a fresh bark or a fresh leaf or a fresh shoot, if you will, like night and day.
Yeah, herbalists everywhere have been talking about this problem in the pharmaceutical industry too, where it's like, um, you have to look at how those studies were done because a lot of
Mhm.
times it is that where it's like, or they'll like isolate one piece of it, like one chemical to do the study. I would just say, I think if you're interested in foraging, like get yourself a local foraging guidebook because it's like I found one it's on my Christmas list. If I don't get it, I'm gonna buy it for myself. But there's like a foraging California book. Like find your local foraging book, get to know stuff, get to know your local it's like usually at universities, there's people that work in like the biology department and stuff that'll like answer mycology questions because guys like academics love to answer your weird questions about mushrooms. You just have to
Oh
find which ones
yeah.
to talk
Well,
to.
it's like I that's one of the things I do love about Reddit, you know, as like Twitter is falling apart. I mean, Twitter is just I always thought of Twitter as just kind of a goofy place anyway. Like I'm on there for the jokes, but
Oh my
um
god, the mycology Reddit is everything.
the
I'm on
mycology
like
Reddit is so
I
good.
love it. Everyone that's like, what is this slime? Um, that's so much fun.
The succulent Reddit is really good.
I'm on a lot of arborist Reddits too. My
Love
homepage
that.
is all like astrology, mushrooms, and houseplants. Okay, actually that tracks. That tracks though.
That actually does. I'm checking my notes here, and that actually does track.
That
Uh,
tracks. I love that. I do love the idea of like foraging as witchery because it feels very witchy.
no, well, and I just think, you know, like thinking about like what is actually just kind of right around you. Like I'm gonna be honest with you, I am one of those people that if there's like wild garlic or like wild green onion in someone's yard, like I'm gonna pull it. Like I'll be like, hey, do you use Roundup? No, I'm gonna pick that.
Yeah. And most people are totally cool with it. But
Uh,
I will say, hold on, I gotta put my water down. Don't be the fucking weirdos though that will pick tomatoes from people's fucking plants. I'm like, people do that. People are weird. People have like taken my plant, like my vegetables before from my
yeah,
plants. And I'm like,
you need to like go out on your porch with like a shotgun, like Mima style.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to. But no, I think, and that's something we have in LA a lot too, where like everyone has like citrus trees and stuff. So like we have a friend whose house had a big like orange tree, and she would always just bring us a fuck ton of oranges because you cannot eat all of them. And so
No.
it's like a lot of people will have neighbors and stuff. Like there's always lemons and things for free in the kitchen at my office because for trees especially, it's like there's no way one family is eating all of that. But also if you are someone that lives somewhere with like big fruit trees and stuff, look to see if you have a local nonprofit that will harvest it for a food pantry, because there is an organization in Los Angeles that will do that, and they'll go out to people's houses to like harvest especially the upper areas of their fruit trees to take the fresh fruit and stuff to local food banks, which is a really cool thing to keep in mind.
I I do love that. Like, especially in California where people landscape with fruit trees because y'all are fucking psychos.
Oh, LA is weird. It shouldn't exist.
It shouldn't exist, and you've got fruit trees growing in your yard. So,
And avocado trees for fun.
just for funsies. Um, I actually wanted to talk about I've told you this offline, but like a situation that I had in my kitchen, um, where it was one of those things where I felt so good. And this is that if we were doing when did you feel the magic this week, that week, because this was before we started doing that as a segment, it would have been that. Because okay, so tangerines. We know when we love tangerines, do we not?
We do.
And did you know that magically speaking, tangerines are associated with euphoria?
I love that. I love
Uh,
that.
and one of the only times in recent memory where I can genuinely say that I felt euphoria was while eating a tangerine.
I do love that. I did find another weird food thing today when I was going through Cunningham that apparently pistachios in Arab culture are said to be an antidote to love potions. So we're gonna have
Oh,
to talk about those
funny.
at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, but tangerines, oh my God, I do love tangerines.
But literally, okay,
Mm.
so I was wearing these headphones because I actually I wear these headphones as like my main headphones a lot because I like that they cover my ear. Because my ears get sore wearing like earbuds, and they
Yeah.
they don't with these. So, um, fun fact about me, I have a very tight ear hole.
That's hot.
Isn't that so hot?
That's
Like
so hot.
you can barely get your little finger in there. It's so tight. It's
Oh
so
my
tight.
God. Oh, whew.
Um, but no, so I was listening to Amy Winehouse because sometimes that's what you're listening to when you
Yeah.
experience one little second of euphoria. But I was eating this tangerine and I was like, oh my god, this is the best fucking thing I've ever eaten in my goddamn life. And I just literally felt my brain like give me one little drop of serotonin.
Ugh. It's so polite of your brain.
So polite. And I was riding that high for like a day and a half. No shit.
Love it.
Um okay. So here's a good segue. Here's a good segue. So I wanted to ask, what about your kitchen would you say gives it a hearthy vibe rather than just like a kitchen vibe?
Ooh. Okay. That's a really good question. I think for me personally, I have plants in my kitchen, which I love. I've got my calatheas in there because they love humidity. But I think that one of the things that personally I like the most about it is it's very maximalist. It's like I think that the decor has a lot to do with the vibe in the
Mhm.
kitchen, and I just love that. So like the entire back of our oven is covered in like there was like a brewery that did Game of Thrones beers, and we have the entire collection of like the Game of Thrones bottles that are really cool. We also have like glass fronts on our cabinets. So it's like I love having all of our dishware in there. And I think that having this kind of like it is kind of a cottage core, very cluttered vibe in the kitchen to me feels really hearthy. I like hand knit from like t-shirt yarn, a little like mat that's in front of my kitchen sink. And one of my very favorite things that I have in my kitchen that to me feels just like so witchy and hearthy is I have little like bowls, and I have a bowl that has my like gray Celtic sea salt in it that I pinch from, and I have like an open bowl that has garlic in it, and I have my like fruit bowl that has lemons. And there's something I think too about having like food and things out on the counter as opposed to like all being put away that makes it feel less like sterile. So I don't know. For me, I feel like I've cultivated a very cottagey aesthetic in my kitchen. And also the fact that like people just hang out in there. It's like I always end up hanging out with people in my kitchen.
I think, some of the most important and impactful conversations I've ever had in my life have been leaning up against a kitchen counter.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And like why else would you be in a kitchen except for to like have wonderful meaningful moments with the people you're in there with?
Mhm.
I also am like a big fan of like not having the like super minimalist kitchen. I don't know, something about
No,
it
I
just
don't.
feels so sterile.
I don't care for that. I love my little tchotchkes
Yeah.
and all my
I
little
like my
stuff.
tchotchke. I want my cool kitchen gadgets like to be easily accessible. I'm happy with the fact that my like Loch Ness monster nesting spoons sit on my counter because that's where they go.
That's where they go. So, I was gonna say. So I feel like in my kitchen, it's definitely the little cottage-shaped cookie jar
Oh my god, I love your cookie jar. It is so cute.
because that thing literally sat on my grandma's countertop for my whole life. Um, and now it's on my countertop.
I feel
And
like we should post a picture of our like vintage hand-me-down cookie jars because I have that creepy clown cookie jar.
which is creepy and delightful at the same time.
As most vintage cookie jars are.
But yeah, love my little cookie jar. I love my cat teapot. I think that
Oh my god, yes.
it's a little cottagey. It's a little it's even a little cottagecore. And
I mean, I learned the term goblin core recently, which is kind of like a more witchy cottage core. So maybe it's goblin core.
but and I do have my tea kettle on the stove at all times, ready to
Oh,
go.
same. I've got my mustard yellow tea kettle out.
A tradition that I think I can take credit for starting
Probably.
because I think
Probably.
Corey wanted to buy you one, I think was the thing, but then I picked it out.
I mean, yeah, because I had the yellow one that was gifted
Uh-huh.
from one of y'all, and then I replaced it with a newer, like slightly nicer mustard yellow one that has like just a nicer spout, but I got another mustard yellow one.
Yeah, because you're always gonna have a yellow teapot now. That's just like
Yeah. Well, which is great because the accent wall in my kitchen is dark green. So I love
and
having
yeah,
like the blues and yellows.
blues and yellows, blues and yellows. Look at my teal phone case,
Hey girl.
I'm still living that 2009 fantasy where like everything is like teal and hot pink.
I'm about that teal and mustard yellow life. Those were my wedding colors.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. But do you remember when that was like the ultimate like color clash? Like, all the like
Oh yeah.
graphic t-shirts were like teal and pink.
Yep. That was the time.
Because those colors are very different from each other.
They are. They are.
But okay, no. But yeah, love my cat teapot. I personally love having like the little stack of cookbooks on top of the fridge too. I mean, all of them are my roommates, but it was my idea to have them in there.
I do love
Because
that. Mine are in a pantry now because I kept them out in the kitchen for a long time, but then I got tired of cleaning grease off of them.
oh sure, yeah, that's a that's a concern. That's a concern. Um, but no, I also am a huge fan of like graphic tea towels. And so like anytime I'm, at the store and they have the seasonal stuff out, we actually basically use the Halloween ones year round at this point, but like
Same.
and I think it's part of it.
Yeah.
It's like a spooky Mima lives here.
I have a tea cowl that says bewitching in the kitchen. I also have one that's like hocus pocus. I have one that is spider printed. I have one that has like really cool kind of like dark academia, like sketches of herbs on them. I am actually embroidering kitchen tea towels for my family members for Christmas. And so I'm literally embroidering kitchen towels for people for the holidays.
And I would say that counts as kitchen witchery.
Oh
Because if
yeah.
we really circle back around to like the main subject, it's like one of my favorite things about kitchen witchery as an idea. Because I mean, there is like an herbalism aspect to it where like you could look at the herbalist's qualities of the things you're cooking with, but really if you're gonna be using that much of a thing in your food, that's not really like a seasoning at that point. That's kind of more of a main ingredient, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's where it's like good to get to know about like nutritive plants that,
uh-huh.
it's like things like nettles that you can like put into greens and things like turmeric. But yeah, it's like that's just like only like one sliver of
But I would
kitchen
say,
witchery.
but I would say that like the intention you're setting is
Yeah.
really kind of where the juice is coming from.
I'm also a big fan of like stirring directions and like I
Because
love doing
you
stirring directions.
because I'm doing that shit when I'm behind a bar too.
Yeah. Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, every morning I make like a special cold brew coffee for it's we talk about it as it's my walk bevy. And it's
Mhm.
like I do a cold brew coffee with like a scoop of like this greens powder that I use, plus some motherwort and bacopa tincture. And I'm stirring that clockwise and thinking about my good intentions for the day. And it's like, but it's such a small little thing that becomes so much a part of like just being a witchy human that you don't even necessarily actively think about it anymore, which is the great thing I think about kitchen witchcraft is it's like it becomes part of your lifestyle, which sounds so silly when you say it that way, but it's true. It like just becomes a part of your everyday.
Well, and I would say there have definitely been times like when I made that lemony chicken soup last year. And then I was like, this literally made me feel so much better. I'm going to like reverse engineer this whole thing and like because I just, I'm definitely someone who likes to cook intuitively. I could say I'm gonna make something like chicken noodle soup, and then I go to the store. And obviously I'm gonna get the same chicken and noodles regardless, but then, where you go to produce, that's when it gets interesting because you're like, am I gonna put a turnip in? Am I gonna put
Yeah.
fennel in? Am I gonna
But
put
what looks good?
it's like, am I gonna put you know, dry seasoning in? Am I gonna get fresh thyme? Am I, like what is gonna end up being in here?
Yeah, it's like
Um,
unless I'm baking, recipes just give me like an outline of the
right.
general idea of where I'm
Right.
going.
Like you know what chicken soup is supposed to taste like.
Yeah. I
You know
know what's in a breakfast taco. I don't have to follow a recipe for a breakfast taco. I'm
no,
gonna go and see what
you
looks
definitely
good.
don't. And actually I always loved when I lived next to Callie because she would just simmer down like beans and peppers as like a taco filling, and like each time it was a little bit different based on what was looking good at the store. But it was like something like that that's so simple but so good every single
Yeah.
time.
Again, like you said, it doesn't have to be like Michelin star, like complicated, difficult. Like doing something really simple really well is where it's at, honestly.
And I kind of want to talk a little bit today too about the importance of keeping kitchen witchery like a more open practice and not get super gatekeepy with it. And really what I wanted to talk about is this kind of intersection of like witchy culture and diet culture,
Yeah.
where we start talking about like food purity and whether or not
Yeah.
things are low vibrational.
Ugh, get the
Because
fuck out of here with that.
because that really does make me gag. And it's like, I think coming from a food culture of poverty, so much of the food that I like and would cook would be considered very quote unquote low vibrational by like some of these freaking gatekeepy food weirdos on the internet that are like they're in our spheres. They're like in metaphysical and spiritual spheres.
Yeah, it's like don't let them repackage their eating disorder as a spiritual practice and sell it back to you.
No, and that's like really what a lot of what I see happening.
Yeah.
Um, especially when we get into like when people say low vibrational, I'm like, I'm literally gonna skip this video, this podcast, whatever. It's like you
Unfollow. Yeah.
no, because I was doing, for this segment, one of the things that I always do when I'm doing my research is I will listen to other people's podcasts about kitchen witchery. And then when it starts going into kind of like what kind of foods you should eat or like, what does and doesn't count, it's like, no.
That's why I always say, I'm like, so as someone who has struggled with an eating disorder forever, and anyone who has an eating disorder knows it's like you don't stop having an eating disorder, right? It's like something you deal with. And I think the spiritual woo community is very, it can be very enabling for orthorexic type
Hmm.
behavior, which is why for me with herbalism and when I'm thinking about foods that are really good for you, something that has been helpful for me. And if one person hears this and it's helpful, that's all that matters. Is like, instead of thinking about foods you shouldn't eat, think about foods that like you want to add to things that you love because they bring good stuff to the table. So instead of saying like, I'm not going to eat this, it's like, this time of year, I try to add more ginger and turmeric to stuff, right? Because it's like good for your immune system and like has lots of vitamins. So thinking about food as additive as opposed to taking away, I think can be a really helpful mindset shift for people with eating disorders.
Well, and I just feel like there is so much like healing that can be done in a kitchen.
Yeah.
And I'm literally just strictly talking about like the act of cooking, again, making you feel connected to people from your past, making you feel connected to like just humanity in general, and just thinking about all the people that came before you that had to be in the kitchen every single day, feeding families. Um,
Yeah.
because you might not want to have a family, but you do come from a long line of people that had families. So, pretty much all your ancestors had families. How does that make you feel? That
Like
it's
I'm
literally
part of it.
that it's taken 2 million years for your genetic line to make the conscious decision to not have kids.
Hey, girl, hey.
Hey, girl, hey.
It ends with
Um,
me.
it in my bloodline ends here. But no, I do. But and it's like I don't want to get too woo woo with it. But I feel like there's a certain energy that does kind of take over when you're like in the kitchen and you just like know what the fuck you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Agreed.
think that's like kitchen witchery. Like I don't think it's really, I mean, but also one of the trends that I saw that I really do kind of creeping in is like using sigil magic in your cooking because
Oh my God.
not
I
not
love putting sigils on bread.
I was gonna say because like I know a lot of people who can do like breads and stuff like that, but who don't actually like cook because like standing in front of a simmering pot of like soup or stew or whatever for like hours and hours and hours, I enjoy that. I enjoy the fuck out of that. Everything I cook is like that in some respect or another. And that is where I really kind of like feel magical about it, right? Because
You're
I'm
a
like
low and slow queen.
low and slow queen, and it's like it's really this almost kind of Saturnian thing where it's like I'm a person who does not have patience, but I have learned how to be patient with cooking. Um More so than in like almost any other area of my life, but I feel like it does kind of help in other areas of your life to learn a little bit of fucking patience. Like you don't want to serve something that's not ready yet.
Exactly.
So you have to be willing to wait for gratification. And that's got Saturn written all over it. But I would also just say to anyone out there that's like looking more into kitchen witchery, like try to branch out a little bit, because you might realize that you're more of a baker. You might realize that you are a sauce slash pasta queen. Because I will tell you, I cannot do pastas at home because my sauce never comes out like the right texture. Like I tried to make like a homemade tomato sauce like literally one time, and it was so watery, and I was like, I followed the directions and I don't know what I did wrong and why God hates me.
Oh my God. Well, speaking of pasta, one of my favorite pastas I used to make, I don't think I'm going to be able to do anymore because I officially had a really bad allergic reaction to brie. It finally
Oh
happened.
no, that's happened to me. That's happened to me.
Yeah. So, yay, brie
What did
allergy.
you get like did you get like rashy around your neck or
I got wheezy and
yeah, because it's
my
like
tongue
it's
swelled a little bit,
uh-huh.
and like yeah, it was like my entire like my face felt like my skin was too tight.
Yeah.
It's
That's
great. It's great.
that that's an allergy. All right. So I think we're gonna leave it there. I did want to say, actually, I did want to end with something that I thought was an kind of interesting topic, um, which is like, what forbidden flavor do you think? Okay, so for me, like one of my top answers is like mountain laurel. Mountain laurel is a little bit poisonous, but if you could make me a cake that tasted like how mountain laurel smells, I would like eat the fuck out of that.
Ooh. Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, I think for me, and this is like, I think this makes sense for me. I love the smell of like fall in the woods, like that kind of dirty leaf smell, which I think is why I like things like matcha and things that taste like dirt. But it is that like super earthy, like literally things that just taste like dirt, I think are really where it's at for me.
You know, I was gonna say my other one that I actually did some research about, and this is gonna just maybe blow your mind. But you know how I'm always talking about how I love the smell of sycamore trees in the fall, and you know,
Yeah.
like when the leaves fall and it kind of smells like cinnamon.
Yeah.
And I'm always saying this on and off the air, on and off the air. I'm talking about I'm just obsessed. I'm obsessed with the smell of sycamore leaves in the fall. Um, and they're also usually the crunchiest leaves, so like double points for that because it's fun to step on them. And then they release more of that smell, and then you know,
And then
anyway,
Nick's a happy camper.
and then I'm just so happy. But I actually found out that that those are, I mean, those the leaves are food safe. I mean, you don't eat the leaves, but I found this recipe, an old Cajun French recipe. So I'm like into this already.
It's of your people.
It's a stuffed duck leg wrapped in sycamore leaves to keep it from drying out.
Ooh.
And so you supposedly get a little bit of the flavor of the sycamore tree into your duck meat. Um,
My mouth just watered.
so I also think you should, you know, I think it's interesting to like think about stuff like that, because sometimes you will find something like a sycamore leaf where you just like, man, I wish I could taste that. And then you look it up and you're like, wait, I could have been doing that the whole time.
Delicious.
So now
Well,
I gotta find a sycamore tree that's 50 feet away from the road, and start harvesting because those are some big leaves. So you'll only need a couple for a duck leg.
yeah, that's true. Um, well, Nick, before we get going, I think we should do our asks
Oh, baby
before we do the
asks.
last segment. Um, Rate, review, subscribe, y'all. Download the episode. Reach out to us at Wands and Franz Pod on Instagram, wandsandfranzpod@gmail.com. You can join our Patreon, which is patreon.com/Wands and Franz Pod. I think that's really all we need to say. So,
We're pretty interactive on there. So if you want to tell me what forbidden flavor appeals to you the most, I'd love to hear from someone about that.
yeah, because rotting logs is maybe not for everyone, but it is for Shannon. So
I mean, I will drink a big gnarly cup of pu'er tea. So I kind of get it. I would drink swamp water. I if it tasted like how it smelled.
exactly. I'm like, I love the way like damp forests smell. Um, so, but we've talked about the Tuatha De Danann, y'all, many times. So you're gonna know like a bit of the background generally about like the gods of Celtic Ireland. But specifically today, I'm talking about Dian Cecht, sometimes referred to as Kanta, who was the god of healing and the physician for the Tuatha De Danann. So his father was the Dagda. So the Dagda is like the father deity of the Celtic pantheon. We've talked about him before. He's also called like the good god, which I'm like, that's so sweet. How polite. Dian Cecht was also one of the 5 chieftains of the Tua, along with King Nuagda, Dagda, Agma, and Gwabnu. And he had 6 children. So his son Miach and his daughter Araved, and those 2 became healers like him. And there's a reason I'm mentioning them specifically. But he also had another son, Kian, who was Lu's father. So Dian Cecht is also like the forefather of one of the most important Celtic deities. We know Lu's kind of a big deal. Lunasa High. So there's a lot of super impressive medical talk in some of these stories. So I kind of wanted to cover just like one of the big ones. So Dian Cecht claimed that he could heal any injured man unless they were beheaded or had a severe spinal injury, which I appreciate a man who knows his limits. So he was a patron of medicinal water. And because of that, during the Second Battle of Moytura, when the Tuatha De Danann were fighting the Fomorians, he found like a source of healing water that he used to heal the injured during the battle. So in the battle, Dian Cecht actually helps King Nuada, the king of the gods, who had his hand cut off. So, he was like in the battle. King Nuada has his like hand chopped off. Fuck. Dian Cecht is like, I have a great idea. What if I made him a prosthetic using silver? And so he did. He made him like a silver prosthetic hand that functioned basically as well as his real hand, like kind of given Hephaestus vibes. Like I love a precious metal prosthetic in mythology.
Oh yeah, that's so glamorous.
Truly. And as like a silver girl myself, I'm here for it. So in the time though, there was like this rule, right, that Nuada couldn't be king anymore. He's sometimes also called Nuada Silverhand. That's why. But because he wasn't physically perfect, quote unquote, he wasn't able to stay king. Enter Dian Cecht's son, Miach, who actually studied and became a better surgeon than his father. And so Miach finds a way to replace Nuada's prosthetic with a reconstructed hand made of flesh and blood. So Nuada was able to return to the throne. Like, that's dope. But because mythology, Dian Cecht kills Miach because he surpassed his father. Womp womp. So Miach's sister, Araved, the other physician, said it was said that she wept over his grave. And from her tears, 365 medicinal herbs to treat any ailment grew. So she took the time to catalog the herbs, but again, Jiang Kect was jealous. And because of that, he mixed and scattered the herbs everywhere to prevent them from being used. So this legend, that backstory with Ayurveda is actually like the reason they say that no human now knows the healing properties of all the herbs on earth, which, you know. So he has these like really strong ties to healing though, right? So up until the 8th century CE, he was still being invoked in the creation of healing charms. And there's the incantations of St. Gall, which I think are really fascinating because they're kind of a really cool example of how Christians used paganism and like the pagans incorporated their own stuff into like ancient Christianity. So like definitely go like check out St. Gall's incantations. But there's a reference in one of the incantations to a salve by Jiang Kect. So really it like was kind of a big deal. He is associated often with like wells. We know that wells are a big deal in Irish culture, but some stories refer to him as having a cauldron, not just a well. And it's either his cauldron or his well, the slania, depending on like the story you're reading. So if you're someone who wants to work with Jiang Kect, cauldrons are a great representation of him. Also, offerings of silver. But Jiang Kect's not just associated with like actual healing, but also the knowledge of the healing arts. So I'm like, hey, if we have any witches that are like in medical or nursing school, this might be a good guy to work with. You can really call on him though for anything related to like healing or medicine. Just like make good offerings. He did kill one of his kids, so you know you want to like come with some respect. But I also just want to like say it's like Jiang Kect, yeah, he killed his son. But mythology is mythology. And if you didn't want to work with a deity just because they like killed somebody, you would literally have none to work with. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. These were written in a different time. So that's kind of like the very brief overview of Jiang Kect. My sources today were enchantedgarden.ie, Britannica, and paganpages.org.
Ooh, love the .org. That's spicy.
Mm.
An org.
An org.
Okay, so it's almost the bitter end, you guys, and I actually get to give good news this week. So,
Woo!
so this week, and I left my cards in the other room, so we're just gonna have to do, not do show and tell, but I got the Two of Cups for Capricorn. So our little
Hey,
horny.
goats.
Our little horny sea goat baby is. So this shows that you might be entering a new relationship, and Mazel Tov. Although you know it's always not necessarily romantic. I think kind of the idea here is that whatever this new thing is in your life, it's mutually beneficial. I mean, think about filling each other's cups, so to speak. So this could even be in the realm of business. Or even just like a breakthrough in your current relationship could be on the horizon as well. So I, you know, good. It's good news. It's good news. And, you know, maybe if you are seeing something along those lines, this could be your sign to lean into it a little bit.
Here's your sign.
Because it could be good for you. Could be good for you, you know.
Jeff Foxworthy voice. I'm sorry. I'll see myself out.
Yeah, no, we can actually go now. We can cut there. We can cut there.
All right.
But, okay, so what do we say to all the kitchen bitches?
To all you kitchen bitches. Blessed be kitchen bitches.
Blessed be kitchen bitches. Don't stir that cauldron too hard.
Goodbye.
Bye now.